Comedian and host of The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, came out in defense of Joe Rogan during a recent interview.
Stewart was asked about his appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, despite many on the left having a strong dislike of Rogan. But in speaking to David Remnick, editor of New York Magazine, Stewart says he believes some of those concerns were misguided. Take a look.
That guy is a curious comic who fell into this thing that got f***ing enormous, maybe doesn't, has opinions all over the political spectrum, but has tendencies that people on the left does not fit the aesthetic. He's a hunter.
In fairness, he's had people on who are kind of Nazi curious. That's not good.
I've interviewed Kissinger. And he was carpet bomb curious. I don't know what to say.
Later on in the interview, Stewart continued with his message of trying to bridge the gap between liberals and conservatives.
I've got people in my family that are to the right of Attila the Hun. And when people tell me, how can you platform that person on your show? I go, I platform my uncle every Thanksgiving. And by the way, I love him. He's a three-dimensional human being who has qualities that I really admire, things about him. And we've lost that. We've lost the ability to love people because we litmus test at every point.
Now, some people on the left didn't care for Stewart's comments. Journalist Jeremy Fassler says on X, quote, "We'd come so much closer to solving racism in America if white people realized the nice relatives they sit across from at Thanksgiving wouldn't be so nice to them if they weren't white." And writer Josh Olson says, quote, "The right wants to take basic human rights away from multiple members of my family and other people I love. No one who shares those views is welcome in my home or my family, ever. Jon Stewart is so wrong on this, it's jaw-dropping."
No, I say the opposite. I say right on, Jon Stewart. I thought those remarks were fantastic and, again, demonstrate his talent and independent thinking, even when I don't always agree with him. He explained Joe Rogan quite well. Joe Rogan is a comedian and actor and game show host who is curious and started doing this podcast where he platforms, even that word is getting to be so annoying. He interviews, has conversations with a wide variety of people, from people on the right, the very far right, to people on the very far left, including Bernie Sanders. This is one of the biggest shows there is. The audience is massive. If Kamala Harris had availed herself of the opportunity to be on it and do a good job, it would have helped her. She lacked, I think, confidence that she would do a good job, so she didn't do it. Not every single Rogan episode or interview takes the conversation in exactly a direction I would or I like, but that's fine. It's not exactly for me. It's for a wide swath of real Americans who have confusing views and views that are all over the place, that have right-wing views on social issues and left-wing views on economic issues, or vice versa. And David Remnick was like, "Oh, this is Nazi adjacent." Well, yeah, people have Nazi-adjacent views out there, and you could no longer just ignore this kind of speaks to what I talked about in my radar. We no longer live in a world where there's a small number of TV channels and a small number of book publishers and a small number of magazines, and you can effectively keep views that you think are too extreme outside of that you can keep them out of being discussed. You just can't do that anymore. The internet has made that impossible. So the reality is you're going to have to live alongside with people who are spouting views you don't agree with and find out how to. And some of these views are very dangerous and should be argued against, but you have to actually do that work, do that labor. You can't just say, it's wrong to engage them, they're going to go away. They're not going away.
Well, that's what you said about that, do the work, do the labor of arguing. You said the same thing about Fuentes earlier. People need to challenge him. That's not going to be Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's not a journalist. He's a curious guy that has people on. And a lot of times there's not enough pushback in his interviews. Sometimes there is, but for some people, like you said, it can get dangerous if somebody is just allowed and he doesn't have the capacity or didn't do the extensive research to argue them every point and they're spouting lies. Somebody might listen to it like, is that true? Did this never happen? And there's people that are easily affected. I do believe that the American public has discernment, but sometimes if you hear somebody that's convincing enough, even somebody like me who doesn't believe that there was aliens, and then I watch that Joe Rogan podcast and I'm like, let me do my own research. Let me watch this docuseries now. And I went on a rampage. So that's how easy it is to get somebody someone's interest peaked to continue looking into an idea. And so it's not that I don't think he should have those conversations. It's just the fact that he has this massive platform with outsized influence. And so as it grew from curious guy who just, would have people on, maybe there's other people you can add to the team that if something is egregious on there or is wholly disproven, maybe there's just somebody around that could say, be in his ear or just let him know, hey, like even if it's 30 minutes after the person says it, like, hey, so I just wanted to clarify this. You brought up this point, but this thing came up and this has been disproven in these 17 ways. Can you back up your point any further? Like, I just got to ask. Like, and the man has enough money to hire somebody to do that without seeming like a grilling session or making it wholly uncomfortable. And it doesn't make him need to be a journalist. It just makes him having a little bit more responsibility, like we put on people that have massive platforms.
I mean, he hosted a debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray that was great. He pushed back very hard against Bari Weiss when he interviewed her on her foreign policy views. It was harsh pushback. He had on Sanjay Gupta, is that his name?
Yeah, from CNN.
To talk about how CNN had framed Joe Rogan's comments about ivermectin and correctly got Sanjay Gupta to admit that when they portrayed it as a dangerous drug, they were wrong in saying that. So I've seen him do interesting combative combative is the wrong word because he's polite and he's friendly, but adversarial or interviews where there's some kind of counterpoint offered. That's not always the case, and sometimes they're just talking about, dumb things or aliens, which I know a lot of people watching don't think, maybe you don't think, I think that's all dumb stuff because it's all, there's no aliens and there's no visitors and none of it is real and no one can present a shred of proof to that effect. But I'm happy to let them try to make their case, and they'll never say that here's the alien part. They'll say it's in a warehouse and I can't tell you where it is. Did you see our 3i Atlas interview? Stop downplaying it, okay? Something's going on out there, Robbie. You can't just explain everything. That was out there in space.
But
an object.
It's not that simple. Everything's not that simple.
Well, maybe it's out there in space as some object that is technology from some distant multiverse is different than the aliens keep visiting us. But for some reason, only in the American Southwest, and all they do is kick over trash cans and then fade into little lights.
I have another inkling of what may be happening with Jon Stewart. He's always been somebody that I like and has been very vocal. It seems like he stands firmly in what he believes.
Yeah.
Why he may be a little more lenient to open ideas that disagree with his, if you understand that Paramount Skydance bought CBS and Comedy Central, they're all under one umbrella. These are now President Trump's friends. Larry Ellison, David Ellison now own Paramount Skydance, and they're Trump's friends, and he works for Comedy Central, which is under that umbrella. He might understand, and he actually said this in a New Yorker interview, we understand that none of us are owed a platform. Right. So I think he can easily see, with the cancellation and temporary off-air situation that we had in recent history with comedians like his, he could say that, hey, that it could easily be me, and if I'm deplatformed, that's also fine, but maybe let me play ball a little bit. Let me tell people that, Joe Rogan's allowed to have whoever he wants on. I don't criticize Joe Rogan for having a softball interview with President Trump. Maybe he's trying to put that statement out early so that David and Larry could hear him loud and clear, like, I'd like to keep my job. So that also could be another layer to this that he's doing subtly and with a little tact if you're watching along and saying, this is why his tune might be a little more lenient.
Well, if I was making decisions, Jon Stewart would be one of the ones I would keep for sure, because he is interesting and he does good interviews, and I can't predict what he's going to say, and he's talented. Next up, the Trump administration is considering sending troops to Nigeria, and actually rapper Nicki Minaj surprised some by saying she thinks that's a good idea. We'll be right back.